Good morning, ORU. At a really young age, my grandpa taught me and my sisters how to garden. We had this massive garden in the back of our yard, so many different vegetables and different plants and flowers. And so today I have a natural tendency to just notice things about gardening, landscaping. And I was walking through our campus, our beautiful campus, which has so many plants, the prayer gardens. It's absolutely stunning. And I was walking through and I was noticing that everything is so well taken care of. The landscapers take care of all the bushes, everything's always trimmed, everything's always watered, there's always new plants being put in, new flowers. They take care of everything in a way that everything has what it needs. And I was thinking about this and was realizing that the Lord takes care of us in the same way. He takes care of us in a way that we don't have to worry about some of the basic needs in our lives. Jesus gives us a perfect example of what this looks like in Matthew 6. So that's what we're going to dive in today. So if you do have a Bible, feel free to turn to Matthew 6, and we're going to start in verse 25. He says, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes?" So he straight up tells the people, don't worry about the basic needs in your life. And this seems really drastic because these are necessities. But to help us understand this passage, we have to notice that there's a therefore where he starts this verse. So we're going to go backwards to verses 19 and 20, where he says, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust consume, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consumes, and where thieves do not break in and steal." So he indicates here that there are two realities to be concerned about, or two things to be worried about. The first thing is the things on earth. These things will fade away. This is even the food and water that we drink and our clothes. These things will fade. And the second thing is the things of heaven. These are the things that last. These are beyond what we can see. So as we continue reading through this passage, let's remember that there are two realities here. There's things on earth and there's things in heaven. So Jesus goes on and he says, look at the birds of the air. God feeds them. The flowers, God clothes them. They do not labor or spin. They do not have to work for the water and the sun that God just gives them. If God pays attention to their needs, he would most definitely be paying attention to the needs of his own people. Now today, we worry about a lot of things, and a lot of the similar things. We worry about food and clothes. Think about how long it takes us to sometimes pick out a restaurant, or how long it takes us to pick out our chapel fit. But sometimes the worries are a little bit more heavy. Sometimes they include, how am I going to pay for school this semester? How am I supposed to get all these assignments done this week? How am I supposed to finish my senior paper? How am I supposed to handle this relationship? Where am I going to work after college? And the list of our worries could go on and on and on. It could go on forever. And these kind of create a clouded vision in front of us. Like when we're driving at night or driving in a rainstorm or a snowstorm. You can still see the road, but you can't see it clearly because of all the things going on in front of you. Thankfully, Jesus gives us a way to clear these worries from our minds and give us a new focus. He says, "But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things that we worry about will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." Now, this seems like a really difficult thing to say. Stop worrying, just forget about it, don't worry, look to Jesus, look to the kingdom. When we look at it that way, it's really difficult to practice. Just stop doing this, don't do that. But I think what Jesus is really doing here is he's giving us an invitation. He's giving us an invitation to see the way that God sees. And Jesus is our perfect example of this. He found a way to get alone with the Father. He made time, even in the middle of his busy, ministry-filled day, for people to simply come and interrupt him, to minister to people, to pay attention to those around him. In other words, to help us understand this, seeking his kingdom is setting our attention and our time on the Father. For some of us, this might mean in the middle of our morning, we're planning all the things that we have to do, or writing our papers, doing our assignments, or the 10 minutes we have to run through the deli and get our food right before class. Sometimes in the middle of all of those busy things and all of these worries, what we need to do is pause. Just pause and be still for a moment and ask the Father, how do you see right now? Jesus, what should I be concerned about? And I can tell you, I tend to be a really anxious person. And even just the other day, I was working on a paper, working on this sermon, and I was freaking out, telling the Lord, how am I supposed to get all these things done? And he simply reminded me, Amanda, I have an invitation for you to see how I see. And that is the invitation that the Lord gives to each and every single one of us today. So today, receive the invitation to see how the Father sees, to see people the way he sees people. And it will change the way that we do our homework, the way we approach everything in our lives. Instead of approaching it with anxiety, we approach it with the peace and strength of the Lord. So today, receive that invitation, and he will take care of all of the other things, as his word says. Thank you.